Hello everybody, welcome to the next video, and in this video I want to talk about compound exercises versus isolation exercises. Which of the two is best? So a common way of classifying weight training exercises is in terms of how the exercise trains your body and what or how many muscle groups are being used significantly when it's performed. In this case, there are two groups an exercise can fall into. First, the compound exercise, second, the isolation exercises. Now, a lot of people like to make general definite statements such as compound exercises rule and isolation exercises suck. Unfortunately for them and the people who listen to them, it's not quite that simple. The truth is both compound and isolation exercises can serve a ton of different purposes in a ton of different workout routines based on your goal and your body, and that means the only way to know for sure which type of exercise is best for you is getting down to the specifics of each. So let's do that. Let's begin with the compound exercises. A compound exercise is any exercise that involves the use of more than one major muscle group at a time. Typically, there is one larger muscle group that ends up doing the majority of the work, and then one or more smaller muscle groups that are recruited secondarily. So here's a list of the most common compound exercise along with the primary and secondary muscle group each one targets. First, the flat incline or decline bench press with barbell or dumbbell or machine, doesn't matter. The primary muscle group is of course the chest, but the secondary muscle group is the shoulder and the triceps. Overhead shoulder press with barbell, dumbbell or machine. Again, the primary muscle group is the shoulder, but the secondary muscle group is the triceps. Then we have dips on parallel bar with a slight forward lean, which would be the primary muscle group would be the chest, the secondary muscle group is the tricep and the shoulders. And dips on parallel bar with no forward lean, this would be the primary muscle group would be the triceps, with the secondary muscle group being the shoulder and chest. Then we have the rows with barbell, dumbbell or machine. The primary muscle group would be the back, but the secondary muscle group is the biceps. Then we have pull-ups, chin-ups, lat pull-downs. Any type of grip, then primary muscle group the back and the secondary muscle group is the biceps. Then deadlift for many variations. The primary muscle group of deadlifts is the posterior chain, the hamstring, the glutes, the back, etc. And the secondary muscle group is much of the lower body, much of the upper body. And then we have squats, many variations of them. The primary muscle group, of course, is the quads. And the secondary muscle group is most of the lower body, the glutes, the hamstrings, the lower back. So basically, if an exercise involves pushing, pulling, squatting or deadlifting, it's usually training more than one major muscle group, and that makes it a compound exercise. And as you can see from the list above mentioned, all chest pushing, pressing exercises also use the shoulder and triceps. All shoulder pushing presses exercises also use the triceps. All back pulling or rowing exercises also use the biceps, and deadlifts and squats and also use a variety of lower body muscles and in some cases the lower and the upper body. So you may be wondering why you should care about what secondary muscle group gets trained during compound exercises. Well, here's why. You're using a workout schedule that will allow you to train each muscle group with an optimal frequency, right? Well, based on the information I just told you, can you see how easily it would be to unknowingly train certain muscle groups more often than you're aiming to as a result of their secondary use during exercises that primarily target other muscles? Plus, there's also the issue of recovery. For example, you might train chest one day and triceps the next. In reality, you've trained triceps 2 days in a row because of their secondary usage using chest exercises. A similar issue can easily arise with pretty much every muscle group there is if you don't plan carefully enough. This is another reason why I consider these the best workout schedules. The workout schedules that I mentioned in some videos also, and the workout schedules that that you can read in our ebook, which you can download below. That's the reason. These are the workout schedules that really have proven to work best among having tested on hundreds of trainees during a period of 2 decades really. And each one pair muscle groups up in a way that avoids any potential problem with frequency and recovery as a result of secondary usage using compound exercises. The same potential problem can exist for your planned volume per muscle group too. This goes back to what I've mentioned in a video about smaller muscle groups needing less direct volume due to how much indirect volume they get during compound exercises. This is all stuff that needs to be taken into account when creating your workout routine. And luckily, if you have been following us from the beginning and have watched every video that we have posted, it's all stuff that has already taken into account. And as already mentioned, the workout routines that you will find in the Mass Training Advice for Natural Bodybuilders ebook, all workout routines take all these things into consideration and have proven to work very, very effectively among hundreds of trainees. Okay, then the next is the isolation exercises. An isolation exercise is any exercise in which only one major muscle group is trained by itself. And typically the movement is done in such a way where usage of all other muscle groups is avoided, which leaves one muscle group isolated and able to do all the work. Here's a list of the most common isolation exercises along with the muscle it isolates. The first is the flat incline flies. Flat incline or decline, the flies with dumbbells, cable or machine. The muscle group is the chest. The lateral rises, front rises, the muscle group is the shoulders. The biceps curls, muscle group is the biceps. The tricep extension, muscle group is triceps. The leg extension, the muscle group would be the quads. The leg curls, the muscle group would be the hamstrings. And the calf rises, the muscle group would be the calves. Obvious. Basically, if an exercise involves rising, curling or extending, it's usually trained just one major muscle group, and that makes it an isolation exercise. So now that you have a damn good understanding of both types of exercises, it's time to compare them and figure out which is best for you. Compound exercises versus isolation exercises. So first, generally speaking, compound exercises allow you to engage more muscle groups, which in turn, or let's see, okay, so compound exercises allow you to engage more muscle groups, which in turn allows you to lift more weight, which in turn allows for a faster and more consistent progression, which in turn causes a lot of good stuff to happen that all leads to the result you want to get. Isolation exercises, on the other hand, isolate muscle groups so they are trained by themselves. This means you will typically be using much lower amount of weight, which in turn means there won't be anything near as much consistent progression, which in turn means the potential for results won't be nearly as high as with compound exercises. So let me explain that another way. Which do you think has more potential to improve the way your body looks or performs? Adding 100 pounds to your bench press or adding 10 pounds to your dumbbell flies? This is obvious, isn't it? And generally, compound exercises allow you to create much more of the right type of training stimulus than isolation exercises can. And for this reason and many other less important ones, compound exercises beat isolation exercises by a fairly large margin for most people most of the time. But this battle isn't over yet. you see there are plenty of specific situations when isolation exercises can definitely be of use and serve an important purpose in your workout routine. For example, let's say you've already done some bench pressing but still need to get some additional chest volume in. However, at the same time, you don't want or need any additional volume for your shoulders or triceps. Since every compound chest exercise uses the shoulders and the triceps secondarily, your best option in this scenario would be to do a chest isolation exercise like dumbbell flies. In this case, the isolation exercise allows you to do a second exercise for a muscle group to reach the optimal amount of volume, and it does it in a way that isolates that muscle so that no other secondary muscle are being trained with unwanted volume. Another similar example is in the case of people who are training primarily for building muscle and have a hard time actually using their chest when bench pressing. This is somewhat common, and it means your tricep and shoulder are taking over and doing most of the work. Aside from trying to correct this issue as much as they can, how else is this person supposed to properly train the chest? That's right, with an isolation exercise like fly. And there's yet another example. Let's say you are doing chest and shoulder in the same workout. You've already done some flat bench press and an incline bench press, and your tricep are pretty much dead at this point. Does it make sense to do some kind of overhead press for the shoulder and therefore use your already very fatigued triceps? In this case, a shoulder isolation exercise like lateral rises might be a better choice for some people. And let's not forget that isolation exercises are really the only way we can directly train smaller muscle groups like the biceps and triceps and calves without adding additional unnecessary volume to the larger muscle groups. So really, while compound exercises are the winner of the battle in terms of what tends to be best in general, isolation exercises definitely have a time and place in the workout routines of many people. So my recommendation, if your primary goal is performance related, increasing strength, improving performance, then compound exercises should comprise the majority of your workout routine, and isolation exercises should be greatly limited or possibly avoided completely. If your primary goal is looks related, building muscle, losing fat, getting toned, etc., then compound exercises should comprise the majority of your workout routine and get your primary focus. However, a secondary focus on isolation exercises is fine and in some cases maybe even ideal. And if you're a beginner with any goal, the compound exercises should comprise the majority of your workout routine, and isolation exercises should be kept to a minimum or possibly avoided completely. So what's next? The next part of the exercise selection process is learning the major weight training movement patterns, the exercises that go along with each, and how to properly implement them. This we will talk about in the next video. Have a nice day.